Three words. Three words that have echoed through the last century, causing more confusion, more anger, and more fear than perhaps any other sentence in the history of philosophy. God is dead. When most people hear this, they think of an arrogant atheist celebrating. They imagine a man standing on a mountaintop, shouting victory over religion. They think it is a declaration of freedom, a statement that we can do whatever we want because there is no judge in the sky. But if you actually read the text, if you read the parable of the Madman where Friedrich Nietzsche wrote those words, you find something very different. You do not find celebration, you find terror. You find a man running into a marketplace with a lantern in the bright morning hours, screaming, "I seek God! I seek God!" And when the people laugh at him, he smashes his lantern on the ground. He stares at them with wild eyes and says, "We have killed him, you and I. We are all his murderers. But how did we do this? How could we drink up the sea? Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the entire horizon?" This is not the speech of a man who is happy. This is the speech of a man who has just realized that the sun has gone out. Nietzsche was not celebrating the death of God. He was warning us about what comes next. He saw that without a shared belief system, without a horizon to orient ourselves, Western civilization would fall into a deep, dark abyss, an abyss where nothing is true, nothing matters, and everything is permitted. He called this state nihilism, and he predicted that the 20th century would be a time of unparalleled bloodshed and psychological collapse because of it. He was right. But Nietzsche did not just leave us in the dark. He offered a way out, a dangerous, difficult, and terrifying path to a new kind of meaning, a path that leads to the creation of something he called the Ubermensch. In this video, we are going to debunk the myths surrounding Friedrich Nietzsche. We are going to explain why God is dead is not an atheistic battle cry, but a cultural diagnosis. And most importantly, we are going to show you how to survive the death of God in your own life without losing your soul. To understand Nietzsche, you have to understand the world he lived in. He was writing in the late 19th century. It was the age of Darwin. It was the age of science. It was the age of the Industrial Revolution. For thousands of years, Christianity had been the foundation of European life. It told people what was good and what was evil. It told them why they suffered. It told them that even the poorest peasant had a soul of infinite value. But then, science arrived. We learned that the earth was not the center of the universe. We learned that humans were not created by angels, but evolved from apes. We learned that thunder was not the voice of God, but electricity. Nietzsche looked around and realized something profound. He realized that people had stopped believing. Oh, they still went to church. They still called themselves Christians, but in their hearts, in the way they actually lived, the belief was gone. They trusted medicine more than prayer. They trusted economics more than scripture. The structure was still standing, but the foundation had rotted away. Nietzsche knew that you cannot have Christian morality without the Christian God. You cannot say, "Love your neighbor," or "all men are equal," if you remove the reason why they are equal. If we are just accidental monkeys on a rock, why should we be kind? Why shouldn't the strong just eat the weak? This is what terrified him. He saw that once the idea of God collapses, the idea of objective morality collapses with it. We are left with a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. Nietzsche predicted that when people stop worshiping God, they will not just worship nothing, they will worship anything. They will worship the state, they will worship science, they will worship race, they will worship ideologies. He predicted that the 20th century would be the age of totalitarianism. He predicted that millions would die in wars fought not for territory, but for ideological dominance. He wrote, "There will be wars the like of which have never yet been seen on earth." He died in 1900. 14 years later, World War I began. Then came Stalin, then came Hitler, then came the atomic bomb. Nietzsche was a prophet. He saw the catastrophe coming, and he tried to warn us. But he was also a physician. He didn't just diagnose the illness, he tried to create a cure. If the old values are dead, and we cannot go back to believing in fairy tales, what do? We have two choices. Choice number one is the last man. This is the person who gives up. The last man is comfortable. He is safe. He has no ambition. He has no great passion. He just wants to be warm, fed, and entertained. Nietzsche despised the last man. He called him the most contemptible man. He is a blinkered creature who says, "We have invented happiness," while blinking stupidly. Choice number two is the Ubermensch, the Overman. This is the person who accepts that the old values are dead and decides to create new ones. This is the hardest task a human being can undertake. It means you have to become a god to yourself.
So, what exactly is the Ubermensch? And why has this concept been so dangerously misunderstood? Let's clear up the biggest misconception first. The Nazis loved Nietzsche. They took the word Ubermensch and twisted it to mean a super race of biological Aryans who would dominate the world. This is the exact opposite of what Nietzsche meant. Nietzsche hated anti-Semites. He hated German nationalism. He called nationalism a sickness. The Ubermensch is not a biological evolution. It is a spiritual evolution. It is not about dominating others. It is about dominating yourself. Nietzsche describes the journey to the Ubermensch in his masterpiece, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. He uses a metaphor called the three Metamorphoses. The spirit becomes a camel, then the camel becomes a lion, then the lion becomes a child. Let's break these down. Stage 1. The camel. The camel is a beast of burden. It carries heavy loads across the desert. It kneels down and says, "Put a weight on me." This represents the stage of obeying tradition. It is the stage where we learn discipline. We learn the rules of society. We learn our religion. We learn our culture. You cannot reject the rules until you have mastered them. You must bear the weight of history. Most people stay camels their entire lives. They follow the herd. They do what they are told. They are good people, but they are not free. Stage 2. The lion. Eventually, the camel goes into the loneliest desert and becomes a lion. The lion wants freedom. The lion wants to be the king of its own domain. The lion confronts a great dragon. The dragon is covered in golden scales, and on every scale is written the words, "Thou shalt." Thou shalt do this. Thou shalt not do that. This is the weight of all the moral commands of society. The lion roars back a new word, "I will." The lion fights the dragon. This is the stage of rebellion. It is the death of God moment. It is the rejection of tradition. It is the smashing of the old idols. This is a destructive phase. The lion creates freedom, but it cannot create values. A lion can only say no, it cannot say yes. This leaves you in nihilism. You have destroyed the old house, but you have nowhere to live. You are free, but empty. This brings us to the final, most difficult stage. Stage 3. The child. Why a child? What can a child do that a lion cannot? Nietzsche writes, "The child is innocence and forgetting, a new beginning, a game, a self-rolling wheel, a first movement, a holy yes." The lion says no to the old values. The child says yes to new ones. The child plays. The child creates. The child does not look for permission. The child builds a sandcastle knowing the tide will wash it away, and builds it anyway, purely for the joy of building. This is the Ubermensch. The Ubermensch is the person who looks at a meaningless universe and dances. He does not need a god to tell him what is good. He decides what is good. He does not need a heaven to justify his suffering. He justifies his suffering himself by turning it into art or strength or beauty. This is a terrifying responsibility. Sartre, the French existentialist, called this condemned to be free. If there is no God, then there are no excuses. You cannot say, "I was following orders." You cannot say, "The devil made me do it." You are 100% responsible for your own life. This weight is so heavy that most people run back to the camel stage. They would rather be slaves than face the abyss of freedom. But Nietzsche says we must face it. We must cross the bridge from the animal to the Overman.
How do we actually do this? How do we live as an Ubermensch in the modern world? Nietzsche gives us a psychological tool, a test, the heaviest weight you can imagine. He calls it the eternal recurrence. Imagine that a demon comes to you tonight in your loneliest loneliness and says, "This life, as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more, and there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy and every thought and sigh and everything unutterably small or great in your life will have to return to you, all in the same succession and sequence." Imagine living your life over and over again, forever, no changes, no edits. Every mistake you made, every heartbreak, every embarrassing moment, every boredom, every tragedy. Would you throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon? Or would you answer, "You are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine"? This is the ultimate test of life affirmation. If you hate your life, the idea of repeating it is hell. If you are just getting through the week, the idea of repeating it is torture. But the Ubermensch loves his life so much that he would want to live it infinitely. This concept changes how you make decisions. Before you take an action, ask yourself, would I be willing to repeat this action for eternity? If you are staying in a job you hate, would you do it forever? No? Then quit. If you're holding a grudge, would you hold it forever? No? Then let it go. If you are cheating on your partner, would you want to live with that lie forever? The eternal recurrence forces you to be present. It forces you to take responsibility. It forces you to create a life that is worth living right now, not in the future,
not in heaven, here. This leads to Nietzsche's second great practical concept, amor fati, love of fate. Do not just bear what is necessary, love it. When tragedy strikes, the Christian might say, it is God's will. The nihilist might say, it is meaningless bad luck. The Ubermensch says, this is my life. It belongs to me. I will embrace it. Nietzsche himself lived a life of immense suffering. He had terrible migraines. He was nearly blind. He was lonely. He was rejected by women. He eventually went insane. And yet, he wrote about joy. He wrote about dancing. He wrote about laughter. He did not write these things because his life was easy. He wrote them because his life was hard. He used his suffering as fuel. He turned his pain into philosophy. He said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." This is the most famous Nietzsche quote, and also the most trivialized. It is not just a slogan for gym bros. It is a profound spiritual truth. It means that suffering is not an error in the universe. It is the gym of the soul. Without resistance, there is no strength. Without the dragon, there is no lion. Without the death of God, there is no birth of the Overman. You must be willing to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you become new if you have not first become ashes? Nietzsche is not for everyone. His philosophy is dangerous. It is like dynamite. It can destroy you if you are not ready for it. It strips away your comforts. It takes away your excuses. It leaves you alone in a cold, silent universe. But in that silence, you hear something new. You hear your own voice. You realize that you are not a sheep. You are not a camel. You are a creator. You realize that meaning is not something you find. It is something you make. The death of God is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new story, your story. So, pick up the pen. Stop looking for a savior. Stop waiting for permission. Go into your desert. Face your dragon. Say your holy yes. And create a life so beautiful that you would be willing to live it again and again and again, for all eternity. Now we have talked about the intense, fiery individualism of Nietzsche, but there is another side to the human experience. There is a state of mind where effort disappears, where time stops, where you are so perfectly aligned with your task that you lose yourself completely. This is the state of peak performance, the state of total immersion. If you want to learn how to access this state on command, click the video appearing on your screen now about the psychology of flow, how to master any skill. I will see you there.